Hello again, everyone. It's Randy M here, and this video is going to be about consequences. Not too long ago, a good friend of mine down in McAlester, Oklahoma, actually was on the news. That's in McAlester, Oklahoma, USA. Wrote a book that's famous worldwide. It's called Out with Consequences, and that basically helped a lot of people. That book, I know many. It's helped tremendously. But in that book, she talked about consequences that happens when you leave the organization of Watchtower of Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, this video is not going to be about that. It's going to be rather the consequences that's involved if you stay and remain in the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, hopefully this bit will benefit current Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe even some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, but especially I hope to reach out to those who are contemplating become a Jehovah's Witness or one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And as long as they're aware of the consequences and maybe what can they do to maybe improve on their way of life, their practices, their procedures to lessen the severe consequences. That's what we hope to discuss briefly today. Well, I'd like to tell about a friend of ours actually that will tell about these consequences or her story. And I'm going to read her poem a little bit later. She's given me permission to share her poem to some of my friends, but up to now I've only shared it with in the way of privately, just to a few select friends. Well, I feel like it's now time to share it publicly, to bring it out publicly. It's very important. I'll try to do the best I can in delivering it. But first, a little bit of background. This we'll call our friend Shirley, and Shirley grew up with my wife Cindy, young girls together, and very close. As a matter of fact, after we all got married, her Shirley and her husband had children. We had children. As families, we would vacation together. I mean, that's how close we were. We love we still do love them very much. And I'd like to tell you though what happened. We got invitations from Shirley. She loved to do fun things. She's a very fun person. She sent out invitations to line dancing and such, but it was an RSVP, which meant, reply back to tell if you're coming or not. And what it was, though, it says adults only, no children. Well, we of course replied back and said, Shirley, we appreciate the honor to be able to come, but we're not going to go without our children. We had children to go do things with, and quite frankly, I'm going to tell you, was always a little paranoid about protecting my children, paranoid of them getting hurt, and at time, actually, Shirley told us later. She says, I thought you were pretty paranoid, but now I realize how wise you was in protecting your girls, your daughters. Because see what happened? She found out that during these times and other times, she had entrusted somebody that was supposed to be trustworthy in the congregation to watch her child, and her child was actually sexually molested, actually involving satanic worship, burying her alive, making her drink blood. And, I remember just like it was yesterday, we set up with Shirley and her husband, John. We sat at Denny's all night long. I mean, from evening time till the sunrise. Just it wasn't much we could do, but just listening to them, talking about it, telling us the story. And I begged them, please. I said, move away out of this area. Because the reason why they needed to move, I felt, was well, several things. But first of all, one of the elders says, no, don't go to the police. You can't go to the police. That's what they told me. And now later, I got to tell you, I'll fill in some of this as we go. But that same elder, actually later, and I can't say this had anything to do with it, because he was on depression medication and such, but he killed himself, hung himself in his garage. But I don't know, I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it very possibly could. I would think it could be a contributing factor to know the details there. But back to the story there at Denny's, when I told them, I said, move out of the state. Well, the husband had a really good paying job, and they didn't feel like they should do that. And I said, you know what? This is the way Cindy and I's always felt. Money's not important. It's being together. It's having your loved ones with you, all being together. As my mother-in-law would say, well, at least we're all together. And they said, no, it's too hard to get a job. So what they did do instead, they sold their home at a loss. They lost, if I remember correctly, is a little over $10,000 loss. And they moved to another, well, a suburb up here, but out of that congregation territory into another congregation territory. And the reason they had to do that is because when the perpetrator came in, you know, the alleged pedophile. Well, the little victim, she was just a tiny toddler, you know. She just, and by the way, they're baptizing toddlers now, or they're encouraging baptism for toddlers if some of you's not kept up with it. But anyway, she would just start fidgeting and get real uncomfortable when that alleged pedophile would pass by her in the Kingdom Hall. So that's why they needed to move, and I certainly appreciate that fact and can understand that. But lo and behold, guess what happened? They split up the circuit, and that alleged pedophile was actually transferred over to their new congregation. And that's not all. The circuit overseer, when he heard about it, he said, oh, that family, talking about our friends, that family will just have to deal with their own spirituality in the best way they can. Later, he apologized for that, which was nice. He apologized for it, but he should have never have said it. Well, anyway, I don't know if I should tell the rest of the story now, or I'll go ahead and tell the rest of the story, then I'll read the poem. No, let me read the poem first. Let me read the poem first because it's a very strong poem, and I'll try to deliver it the best I can. And forgive me for failing if I don't do a good job on it. But the name of the poem is called "Innocence Lost, Rage of Hell." At times, bad things happen we don't understand. We should trust in Jehovah if only we can. But sometimes that's easier said than done when it seems that the wicked are prospering. Why won't no one listen? Why won't no one hear? From the cry of a child, they've stopped up their ears. One elder did listen, and I know he believed. But why, O Lord God, dear God, don't I feel no relief? And actually, I've got up here now, as you can see, her original draft, but since then she's actually added some editorial. I'm gonna, as I come on the editorial, gonna read the editorial. She just basically, this editorial, she just quoted a scripture, Proverbs 21:13, which says, quote, "As for anyone stopping up his ear from the complaining cry of the lowly one, he himself also will call and not be answered." Okay, back to the poem. Because two witnesses were need for proof, there were none to come forward due to their youth. Neither did some parents want to believe. To ignore it was easier and so be deceived. Here's the editorial she added. There were others. One of the victims had no one to believe her but me, not even her own grandmother. At age 18, she went to the elders and her stepfather was disfellowshipped. Well, he was reinstated within a year. When I ask how, well, I'm told that elders can't read hearts. Well, my response is, well, his action shows he's not repentant. He didn't voluntarily confess. He got caught. And approximately 7 years ago, the remaining children were taken from their home to DHS custody. A teacher reported bruises on one of the children. Eventually, they were returned back home. 2 years ago, my son told me that this person said prayer at another congregation. This man had a history of being publicly reproved and disfellowshipped. Now back to the poem. No, people don't want to believe what are facts because of such horrid, unspeakable acts. But where comes the knowledge from a child of just 3? Between married people, that should only be. My sweet little girl, too frightened to tell. To mommy and daddy, she didn't dare well. Could she have been told that they'd surely be killed? Who knows on what basis the secret was sealed? Did she feel dirty and did she feel bad? If her mom ever found out, she'd surely be mad. She felt so guilty. She felt so ashamed. It was not even her fault, but she would be blamed. And then an editorial here as a side note. She says, enmeshed with my daughter's feelings, this happened to me also, and my mother blamed me, and I was only 5. Now back to the poem. It feels so good. It feels so alive. But a child should never be sexualized. For we who've been through this, as adults we know, it does nothing but damage mind, body, and soul. How could I have been ignorant and not been so wise to see that this person was a devil in disguise? She presented herself as a regular pioneer. She was just Satan's agent whose conscience was seared. And again, another editorial she's added is that this person actually had multiple personalities. One told me that Satan has his agents inside the organization. Now back to the poem. For someone to say they too were abused does not justify their actions. That's just no excuse. No one should feel sorry nor listen to their voices. For for like for unlike little children, adults do have choices. See, another editorial that happened to her, to this alleged pedophile. And back to the poem, it says, I wish she were dead. I will not deny, for beasts such as this deserve only to die. This daughter of Satan, as black as a witch, into fires of Gehenna I hope she is pitched. This evil and wickedness that was allowed to happen, I ask, why? Oh, why inside God's congregation? How long will Jehovah allow Jezebel to be while others become victims while justice sleeps? No one, no one could know of the aloneness you feel unless they've experienced the same kind of hell. Your emotions run wild, they're out of control. It tears at your heart, cuts clear through your soul. But for the sake of your child, you have to stay calm, 'cause children need to know their parents are strong. At least in their presence you seek to put up a front. But children can always sense when something is wrong. A few friends want to know just what they can do to help ease the pain, to help see you through. They can't feel your rage, frustrations, and fears of the invisible wound to be carried for years. But there was someone special who was there for me, though she's never experienced such misery. Her support and her listening for hours on end. Oh, what I would have done without such a friend. I felt there was another that had been provided to trust her. To trust her, I wondered, but now I've decided, for she too, as a child, has suffered much woe. To her I could relate and not feel so alone. There too was an elder, a counselor so wise, in him I could trust and completely confide. Himself a survivor of several forms of abuse. I feel he understands. Next to Jehovah, oh yes, I do. I felt his care and support, his sincere empathy. No judging, no criticizing, my own reality. His words were almost healing, nearly like a potion, when he said, Jehovah understands the mind and our emotions. For 4 months in therapy, my daughter went through sheer hell. A different child she became. She lost all her zeal. No, my family and I were not just prepared for the ungodly behavior we would have to endure. How does my daughter, this child of rage, have so much anger at such a young age? With a nail file, she cuts herself under the knee. Then she says to me, Look, Mama, as her leg starts to bleed. She just can't express what she feels deep inside. But from the tormenting pain, she tries to run from and hide. Her behavior is destructive, and it's so hard to believe. But how else can the emotions of pain be relieved? The depression, hurt, sadness I've seen on her face, from my mind and my memory I'd like to erase. Feeling that no one liked her feeling that no one liked her was difficult to bear. Enmeshed with her feelings due to my own childhood fears. Some elders to all of this want to close their eyes, making you feel like you're just telling lies. In the truth, we were well grounded, and no name we would smear. They've known us much longer, but the wicked one a few years. Yes, I really should expect them this witch to believe, because she's clever. Even Satan she'd deceive. They're duped by her faint, poor pitifulness. No conscience she has, and she'll never confess. She didn't even deny she's molested her own kids. She had to admit have been her best friend, but she looked so guilty. She just hung her head. She looked so ashamed, though she was only manipulative. She wrote to the society and said, I hate sex with a man. You see, it was small children that were her greatest fans. She dumped her own kids off, and she'd say all the while, little ones relax me, make me feel good, happy, and smile. Neither her or her husband had a defense. With tears in his eyes, he tried to make sense. In shock and wonderment at her, he stared with disbelief. But a few weeks later, even she deceived. For the elders who didn't want to believe or accept, to me and my daughter, I hold them in debt. A friend said one asked about us, probably in jest, then said, I didn't think their marriage could survive this. Well, he sure doesn't know. Well, my husband and I, we're together forever until the day that we die. Yes, our love for each other is ever that strong. Through problems before, from them we've just never run. Editorial she's added here after that paragraph. The same elder said, this kind of thing breaks marriages up. I never believed him until it happened to us. The strain of it all, how we were treated by the congregation, the elders, the society, a physical move, congregation change, my daughter's therapy, and my therapy. Now back to the poem. Um, oh my daughter, oh my darling little girl, the abuse has been so rough. Her stomach aches badly even when she vomits up. Her behaviors are babyish. Yes, she's certainly regressed, bedwetting and nightmares. No, she doesn't have rest. Worldly books on abuse tell you good things to do. A child can pray to God, to name just a few. I found that so comforting, renewed is my hope. But she rejects her only salvation. Now, how will she cope? It's all been a nightmare, but the worst of all, now, let me start over again on that paragraph. It's all been a nightmare, but the worst of it all, against Jehovah and the truth, she's put up a wall. You see, the abuse is more damaging for a child under 5. Taints their trust of a higher power. To them, he's not even alive. And her editorial, it wasn't in her original poem. The editorial she says about her daughter. She was from 18 months to 3.5 years old when it happened. During her teen years, outwardly she made much spiritual progress, giving Bible talks, auxiliary pioneering, and made such beautiful comments at meetings. I was proud and so thankful. I was so proud and so thankful to Jehovah. But the late teen years, she gave it all up. It's when she expressed to me that she never felt anything when she prayed. Now back to the poem. And now, if you think that this dirge rips your heart out, it's just scratching the surface of what it's been all about. No one can understand what we've been through. No, not anyone, unless they walked in our shoes. Everyone wonders why I just can't let it go. It's consumed and eaten me so that all I feel is great woe. But they're not the ones who see what I see. Oh, I feel, oh, so exhausted. I feel totally beat. No, they just don't live with a daily acting out. Babies and teddies having oral sex. No, there isn't no doubt. This is the tip of the iceberg of all this that's lame. It has driven me crazy. I feel I'm going insane. These words thus far written don't begin to tell the story of all the pain and suffering and the continuous worry. No, it can't tell the problems our family's going through. There are far too many. No, not just a few. A test of my faith as surely has been feeling so overwhelmed I want to give in. But somehow I struggle to keep going on. For to give in to Satan, I'd have just let him won. I guess on Jehovah I'll just have to wait. Forgive me, dear God, for my weak little faith. For he alone knows what's really in my heart. Of his organization, do I want to be a part? An elder so kind, sincere, and so genuine, one that is rare, one so very hard to find. To him one day I hope she can talk about her feelings, of the secret that's haunted her, the secret that's been killing. I pray that one day she will come to believe that it was not Jehovah but Satan who deceived. May Jehovah's love help her to see she's not bad, that in the paradise she can live, it would make her so glad. My prayer to Jehovah is maybe one day. My my prayer to Jehovah is maybe one day my daughter will grow to love him and from his truth never sway. Yes, I pray that her heart will eventually be reached. In him we can trust and always beseech. Yes, in Jehovah's organization, I want her to trust and confide in her elder. Oh, please, she must. Yes, I do want to live in that righteous new order with my husband and my son, but not without my daughter. So that was by our friend Shirley. I'll pick up on the story now in a little bit. See, after, as you can tell, this went on for decades. That her clamoring for justice, from the congregation, from the organization. But before this abuse happened, she never had any any mental health issues. She was very very normal, no issues there. But it really, as it would anybody, it's very damaging to have a child abuse, and it's such a beautiful child. Our friend Betty, little girl Betty, she's grown up to not she's not a child anymore because, like I say, this was a couple of decades ago. Now Betty's a beautiful young woman, and we're so glad to have her as our friend. And what had happened though is it tore their family, it ripped them apart, and the parents got divorced. And when the child become legal age 18, she disassociated herself. That's when she said, well, I don't want to be a part of this Jehovah's Witness organization, because see, she couldn't talk to her dad. She was if she stayed in it, she couldn't. She was being would be forced to shun her daddy, and so she didn't want to do that because he's a great guy. So the consequences though for her mom was now our mom has to shun her baby girl, and she did for a number of years. And we are so proud we got her to come back. We approached her and we told her, Shirley, we don't do the shunning. We were still Jehovah's Witnesses actually at the time, but we said we stopped the shunning. We're not. We don't think we think that's abusive, and we're not going to do the shunning anymore. And so we socialized actually with her. We reached out and got connected back because we were out of the country in that other country called West Texas for a while. So we came back and reconnected back up with her daughter Betty, and doing really good. And Miranda would play at events, and so Betty would come and be with us and socialize, and so we got her mom Shirley to come and socialize too, and that was doing pretty good. I mean, we're so happy of that. And but here's kind of a couple of things that happened. Uh, Shirley's son, Jehovah's Witness, had he had daughters. That would be Shirley's only grandchildren, and the son's wife come and told Shirley, "Hey, you're never gonna if you keep going around her. If I come back over here to pick up my daughters, and your your daughter's here, Betty's here. Well, you're never gonna see your granddaughters again. We just won't bring her. You won't get to see them. We won't come around you." So she's kind of torn there. And then her son also started gave his first talk. So she went back. I forgot to tell you she'd actually missed a lot of meetings, even though she believed it was still the truth. Her belief in it in the Bible was the same. She just felt like many of us do at certain stages that is imperfect men, and it was all the truth. Well, she started going back to the meetings again, and there's some more consequences because now she's between a rock and the hard place. She started shunning her daughter again. See, and so beautiful. I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, her granddaughters are beautiful. Her son's a wonderful man. And it's just so terrible though that this organization puts requirements that are so abusive. Because how do you decide between your grandchildren and your daughter? I mean, you love them all, and so that's kind of what happened. And it was just too much for her to, I guess, to take. Excuse me, because what happened on November 13th, 2017, we received a phone call that she had took an overdose and attempted suicide. And thank you all for many of your prayers. I know many of you, had good thoughts for us. Those, that gave positive thoughts for us, positive vibes. We appreciate that. We prayed a lot too, but she never made it out. She never made it out of the hospital. She's, they went ahead and pulled the plug on her, and she passed away not soon after. And it's so sad. But I mean, for everybody that's involved, the consequences, even for her mama. I mean, her mom was in there. It had to be so difficult. And I'm talking the mom to Shirley. Shirley's mom was in there in all her grief and everything. She still loves God, and but what she's doing, she was passing out the JW.org business cards, and you can't feel angry at her for doing that because this poor woman's just lost her child. Actually, she's lost both of her children now because her son had not too long before that had also committed suicide. So this Jehovah's Witness sister, this poor woman, has lost both children, and so that's a consequence that she's having to face. I ask everybody to please give their prayers for her and help her cope, or even positive. If you're not into prayers, give some positive thoughts and just encourage people. And what I'd also like to do, though, for any of those that, including her, including any Jehovah's Witness, active Jehovah's Witness, it's abusive to shun. So just like it's abusive for somebody to sexually molest a child, and it's not, you can't say, well, it happened to them when they were children, so they're just passing it along. Or an alcoholic, well, my dad was an alcoholic, so I become one. That's not that's not really, that's just using an excuse. That's not really fair. I mean, what we need to do in any of these abuse situations is to break that chain. Just stop it. Stop the shunning. If you want to stay a Jehovah's Witness, go ahead. Everybody stay it, but stop the shunning. Stop that abusiveness of shunning. It hurts people so much. And if you are feeling hurt, call an 800 number, a suicide hotline. Talk to somebody. Go talk to somebody and get some support, some professional help. You know, and if you don't get professional help right then, go down and get the movie. It's a Wonderful Life. Even if you don't believe in God, just think of how your life actually touches other people. That's what that movie brings out. See, Shirley touched a lot of lives, but she was so overwhelmed with the abuse of having being forced to shun or forced to choose which one am I going to lose? Am I going to lose this one or am I going to lose that one? See, so it was so too overwhelming. So you know to remit to know how many people she's touched. I mean, because there's still a lot of us that's hurting right now. Myself, my wife, my daughters, and there's so many more that loved Shirley. And as you can tell from her poem, she's a very bright woman, and she was a very kind woman. So anyway, I hope this benefits some to know that yes, there are consequences in staying in this organization. It's called Jehovah's Witnesses. If you stay in it, there try to do what you can to lighten those consequences. Take the power back and stop. I mean, if you want to believe in a doctrine, believe in a doctrine, but don't do the practice that hurts other people. It's just too hurtful. It's too damaging to not only those that die, but for those of us who survive, who have lost a good loved ones. Matter of fact, many loved ones. You've heard me mention many of the ones that we know that have killed themselves. That's been in this organization. Sometimes, many times, it's because of being abused when they were children. But that's all I have to say, and please let me know if this helps anyone.